Hi everyone, I'm super excited to have Dr. Ken Berry on the show today, and I'm excited because I have learned so much information from him. I feel like most people know him, but for those who don't, do you want to introduce yourself, Ken?
I would be happy to. I'm Dr. Ken Berry. I'm a family physician, which in some parts of the world is called a GP, but here in America we call that a family physician. And I've been practicing medicine for 20 years now. And during that time, I have learned a lot about human nutrition. A few years into my practice, I was morbidly obese. I was pre-diabetic. I had severe reflux. I had rosacea. I had severe joint pain. And I was basically a fat, sick doctor who was trying to tell people how to be healthy. And that didn't really work with me, because where I come from, what you're saying has to make sense with how you're living. And I didn't look like the picture of health. So how did I have any right to tell you how to be healthy? And so I had to go back to the drawing board, and I had to fix all that. And I kind of followed a path that led through the primal ancestral diet to paleo, to low carb, to keto. And then for the last 14 months, I've been almost exclusively a carnivore. And these dietary changes have given me back health at 51 that I did not have when I was 35.
Yeah, I think like one of the things that I love most about you is you admit that, you used to be kind of an apple a day doctor, and your book Lies My Doctor Told Me.
Yeah.
That I say it properly? Yeah, is like that would have caused a lot of controversy, and I think you're amazing for standing up and talking more about the like root cause of problems rather than just masking it with a whole lot of medication. And I feel like that's the society we live in today, that if we don't go to the doctors and get a prescription, we almost feel like we're walking out empty-handed. We want to have a diagnosis for everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things I try to help people understand, is that anytime you go to the doctor and you walk out of the doctor's office without a prescription for a medication, that's actually probably a victory. But you're right. So many people feel slighted, or they feel like they're walking out empty-handed, like, well, I didn't even get a prescription. That's almost always a good thing. A good doctor is going to talk to you about your diet and your nutrition and your lifestyle. Only if you're seriously ill with a very specific set of symptoms, a very specific set of diagnoses, do you actually need a prescription pill or injection or cream or salve or ointment. 90% of the time, all you need is to fix your damn diet, and whatever the malady is that you thought you needed a pill for, it'll just go away, because it's probably self-inflicted.
Yeah, definitely. Something you say a lot that I often quote you for is, if you have an animal that's not well and you take them to the vet, the first thing they'll ask you is, what have you been feeding them? And almost, I've never been asked by a doctor what I've been eating. When I had severe anxiety, heart issues, they thought I had SVT, where my heart rate would always sit really high. And literally a month of changing my eating, after 10 years, my heart rate came back to normal. And to me, that's like, I said to him, I cut out sugars and carbohydrates and things like that. And he said, oh no, that wouldn't have anything to do with it. He said, sometimes the body just fixes itself. But I had these issues for 10 years.
Yeah. And sometimes the body will fix itself when you stop poisoning it with the sugar and the grains and the industrial vegetable oils. Yeah, it will actually heal itself, but not in the midst of all that poison that we've all been told that was good to eat.
Yeah, definitely. So I myself have been keto for about 3 years now, and I consider myself the pretty strict clean keto, although I do have fat bombs and things like that. And with the fat bombs, I do 100% dark chocolate, so it's got none of the added sugars, and add vanilla collagen powders like the Perfect Keto and stuff like that into it. But for the last 6 weeks, I have been doing carnivore, and it was really interesting. I wanted to do it for 30 days to start with, just to see how I went. and I thought I was going to get really bored because I do love, vegetables and stuff like that. But it's been the most amazing experiment. And I'm now 6 weeks in and I'm actually struggling to, like, I've thought, oh, maybe I'll add some avocado back in. But after 4 weeks, I added in I did just straight beef and bone broth and beef liver, no eggs. And I was normally like a 4 egg a day person. So that was really weird. But I brought back in egg yolks after 4 weeks, and then a few days after just normal full poached eggs. But I haven't wanted to bring anything else back in. I've got avocado sitting there that I feed to my husband, but I haven't missed anything. It's so strange. Like, I even eat all the keto chocolates and stuff like that. I don't feel like having it. I just want beef, like steak. It's like I feel more in tune with my body.
Absolutely. So many of the things that we think that we want are actually an addiction. And carbohydrate addiction is a real thing, an addiction to sugars, whether they're added sugars or natural sugars, they're still sugar. That's a real thing. Okay. And so many people are addicted. They have an addiction to these processed grains and to the sugar. And so they will rationalize that and say, well, I like that. I feel like I'm denying myself if I don't eat that. Well, you know what? The alcoholic feels the same damn way when you take his whiskey away. He feels like you're denying him of one of his main food groups, doesn't he? But that doesn't mean you should give him his whiskey back. That doesn't mean that. That means he needs to break the addictive cycle. And that's one of the beautiful things about the carnivore diet. Whether you use it as a 1 to 3 month hack to break the addictions, or whether, if you're like me and it sounds like you, at the end of the month, you're like, you know what? I think I'm going to do this another month because I feel amazing. That's what so many people do when they take the carnivore challenge. At the end of the month, they're like, I ain't quitting. I'm going to keep doing this. I might try a bite of avocado every now and then, or a bite of my spouse's Brussels sprout, but I'm going to eat fatty meat basically from now on because I feel amazing when I do that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it stops that food having the control over you. You get the control back. I feel like, now that keto's become so big, I just consider my personal diet lifestyle, even so before I started the carnivore challenge, for the last probably 6 months, I have been doing, I guess, what Paul Saladino calls carnivore-ish. So I've been doing steak, eggs, and I was using Primal Kitchen mayonnaise, and I was having a little bit of avocado, but I wasn't having, broccoli or spinach or anything like that. Ever since I learned about oxalates and phytates and that, I cut out a lot of things that I was having. And I think a lot of people just need to try and be a little bit more open-minded and try something for 10 days. 30 days is the best, because I think if you only try something for 10 days, you've still got that transition phase and you might not get the best benefits. So people that say they tried keto for 2 weeks and it didn't work, 2 weeks isn't long enough to fully adapt to anything.
I totally agree. And whether you're going to try keto or you're going to try carnivore, you need to try it for at least 4, if not 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Make the firm commitment, clean out your pantry and your fridge, get rid of all the crap, fill them up with keto or carnivore goodies, and do that for the next 4 to 6 weeks. And at the end of that time, if you've been doing keto right or carnivore right, you're not going to want to go back, because by that point, at 4 to 6 weeks, you're going to have broken all of the addictions. You will have gotten out of the habit of reaching for that crunchy, munchy carbohydrate coma. You'll just want real food. And that's an amazing victory. It's almost like a superpower when you don't have to reach for a snack every 2 hours. You can keep working on what you're working on, or keep playing at what you're playing at. You don't have to stop and go get a snack, or go drink a fruit smoothie, or go drink an energy drink. You don't have to do any of that. You can keep doing what you love to do, because you don't have to eat every 2 hours anymore. That's just one of the many superpowers that keto and carnivore give you.
Yeah, definitely. I love being able to go to events or travel. I actually really love flying fasted now.
Yes.
like not having to get snacks on the planes and stuff like that. I just don't feel like I need them, and I feel like I recover better flying, like when I'm fasted.
Yeah, I do a lot of traveling, at least before the virus hit us. And I had gotten to the point where I always fasted on my flying day, because first of all, there's no nourishing food. There's no real food at the airport or on the plane. That's not real food. That's pseudo Franken food. All it's going to cause is inflammation and disease. Okay. So fast, just sip, bring your own water, put some mineral electrolyte drops in it, sip on your water, sip on your coffee, and don't eat any of that crap. And I found that it helps me a lot with jet lag. If I'm going several time zones over, I don't have nearly the amount of jet lag if I fasted during the trip, as if I ate, snacks and ate meals during the trip. Jet lag is much worse if I do that. So there's many benefits to just not eating. And that's another superpower that keto and carnivore give you, is you can go for hours without eating and you don't even mind it, because you don't have that gnawing, craving hunger that you used to have when you were addicted to carbohydrates.
Yeah, definitely. I do feel like there is a lot of new products coming out now. In the last year, I've seen like a big influx in, keto bars and shakes and meal replacements and things. And I've had hundreds of companies reach out to me to promote their products, to pay me to pose next to it with my face. And I turn away practically 99% of them. The only people that I do am happy to promote is companies that I know use clean ingredients and are small businesses that are genuinely looking out for people's health and well-being, not just trying to make a buck. And it makes me quite sad, all of the shakes and things that come out, because most of them are just filled with maltodextrin, maltitol, and sucralose is like the main 3 ingredients I see. And I feel like people, they can be low calories and low carbs, but are they good for your gut health? And to me, gut health is really important.
Absolutely. And I just saw there's now a low carb bread in the States that you can get. And the first ingredient is wheat.
Wheat. That
literally. And so, people who are just starting to learn about low carb and keto, they don't know. It says low carb right on the bag. It says keto right on the Slim Fast shake.
Yeah.
It must be keto, because they couldn't legally say that, could they? Yeah, actually, they can put anything they want to on their label. That does not mean it's healthy. Low carb bread is crap.
Definitely.
And if I beat around the bush about that, I can be more blunt if you need me to. Low carb tortilla wraps are crap. Slim Fast keto shakes are crap. They are not real food. Do not waste your money on them. Do not support these multi-million-dollar multinational corporations. Either eat real whole one ingredient keto food, or, like she said, support a very small keto company who's using 100% authentic, real ingredients and keeping that ingredient list as short as possible.
Yeah, that's really important. Ingredients, I look at ingredients before I look at macros. I would rather something have, 5 grams of carbs coming from coconut or something like that than, 0 carb and having just sucralose and cheap ingredients that they can add into things. People forget that marketing is at its finest, and it has been for a long time. They very strategic with where they place the items at the supermarkets in line with kids' eyes and things like that. I saw recently a pack of Doritos that had Spider-Man on it. I don't ever remember seeing Spider-Man eating Doritos, to see how that would relate. It's just another marketing thing to get kids to go, Mum, let's get these Doritos because they've got, Spider-Man on them.
Yeah, and it's actually criminal, in my opinion. And I predict that within the next 5 years, there will be a class action lawsuit against one of the big food manufacturers, and it's probably going to be one of the cereal manufacturers, either Kellogg's or Post or Sanitarium down in Australia. There's some attorney is going to get together 500 people who have type 2 diabetes or fatty liver, and they're going to sue one of these big food manufacturers because they have basically lied on their label. It says healthy, low carb, low fat, fat free, fortified with 9 vitamins and minerals. Oh, look, it's got the American Heart Association stamp of approval on it. The average consumer, they're not a PhD or an MD. They don't know. They just believe what they're told, and they have good faith in Kellogg's and Kraft and Post and all these multi-million-dollar corporations who spend millions of dollars a year advertising their crap to the public. And it's only a matter of time before one of these big class action lawsuits results in a 7 or an 8-figure settlement on one of these big food companies. So I hope before that happens, they'll start to rein in that, especially advertising to children. Nothing is more criminal than advertising crap right down at a 4-year-old child's level. There's a reason we don't let 4-year-old children vote, because they make terrible decisions, right? But we're going to market to them with television commercials, with little cartoon characters, and then we're going to put the product right at their eye level at the checkout aisle where the parent is stressed to the max and cannot tolerate their child crying for one more instant. So yeah, they're going to give them the little candy or the little snack or with the treat to shut their kid up. And you can blame the parent for that if you want to, but I'd much prefer to blame the multi-million-dollar corporation that spent $14 million advertising to that poor, susceptible 4-year-old child before they were even old enough to vote in an election, but yet they're going to be crying and throwing a fit in the checkout lane. I mean, that's criminal.
Yeah, definitely. It really makes me sad seeing all of the cartoon advertisements and things to entice kids, and then, seeing really young children now struggling with obesity and on their way to diabetes.
Yes.
And the parents are, feeling like they're treating them because they might not have got treats growing up. I know when I grew up, I was allowed McDonald's once every year and a half at a friend's birthday party. It was considered a, treat, but now it's on the weekly because it's convenient. Everyone's so busy, and they drive-throughs, and they have the $5 meal deals, and they entice people in. It is hard for parents, but I always say, some people say they, can't afford to. I'm like, do a big batch of mince. Get some mince, chop up some tomatoes or, cauliflower, whatever. It doesn't have to be expensive to eat healthy. It's just, you don't have to buy really expensive cuts of meat. You can buy bulk mince and the full mince. You don't want the lean, mince with all the fat taken out.
And you're talking about ground beef. I think that's we call it in the U.S. it's ground beef.
Oh, yeah.
So you're saying get the fattiest ground beef you can, which you guys call mince.
Yeah.
And so full mince would be the full fat ground beef. Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah. So I just think people, and also you've got to think about, I feel like I spend similar amount of money now to what I used to spend, because I used to buy for like 6 meals a day, because I was eating at the crack of dawn a muffin every day, and then I was having my carrot sticks and peanut butter, and then I was having my lunch, and then I had a snack, and then I ate when I got home, and then I'd have dinner, thinking that was healthy, and my chicken and broccoli and rice, and and then I would have cheat days on the weekend. It was just crazy to think, when I get little Facebook memories of the pictures of the food I used to eat, I'm a bit shocked, because I would never eat that stuff now. I feel like my eyes have been opened, and yeah, it's really interesting when you do what you think is healthy. And so I can see how when I do talk to people about our lifestyle and stuff and fasting and things like that, they get a bit confused, because I was once in that mind frame. So I haven't always been this way, and people kind of think, oh, it's easy for you. I'm like, no, I know what it's like to crave KFC and all of that stuff. I know that feeling, but I can honestly tell you I don't miss any of that. And a lot of my friends struggle to understand that you can have hot chips in front of me and I don't want them at all. It's hard, but I just like to tell my friends, I promise you there is a way to change your mindset, because once you realize you only want to take in nutrient dense foods that's going to fuel your body, it changes your whole mind. And there's nothing that I miss. You know, pizza can be in front of me, nothing that makes me even want to eat little bits off it. I've just changed my whole mindset, and I love that feeling. Like,
yeah, it's a very powerful feeling to not have those kinds of pseudo foods called to you anymore. And I think any high carbohydrate processed food is a frankenfood. That's not a real human food. And I think what you've noticed is that, first of all, you've broken the carbohydrate addictions. So you don't have that monkey on your back calling to you every 2 hours, hey, eat some carbs. But then secondly, once you eat a meal that's nutrient dense, once you eat a ribeye and plus or minus a little broccoli, asparagus, Brussels sprouts, avocado, that is a nutrient dense meal. That's a meal that our ancestors 50,000 years ago, they would have literally fought to the death to win that meal. That's the meal that we were built on, right? That's a meal of power. That's a meal of freedom. When you start eating those types of foods, your brain works in a way it didn't used to work. And most people, after they've been fatty meat, heavy keto, or carnivore for a while, they look back at how they used to think and how they used to behave. And it's like you're a different person. And you are a different person. You are the person that you were always meant to be, because you freed yourself from addiction, and now you're actually fueling your body and your brain and your spirit and soul on real nutrient-dense human food, and that just releases all your superpowers as a human being.
Yeah, definitely. Day one of carnivore, I cooked up my bit of steak, and I cook mine in the air fryer, and put a bit of salt on it. I've got the Redmond salt, and I kind of looked at it and I was like, I was like, all right, let's try this. But I was like, surely I'm going to still be hungry. I do have like fattier cuts of meat. I have ribeye. We call it Scotch fillet here. I think you call it ribeye over there. But yeah, I cooked that up, and it was so satisfying, and I felt so good. And it was such a strange feeling. Like, I was like, wow, okay, I think I could do this. And 3 days into carnivore, I actually cut out Ultima electrolytes, because I was finding this, even though it's only got a small amount of stevia, it was getting sweeter by the day. I think because cutting it out, like all the sweeteners and things like that, I was like, it was becoming like really strong. So I cut that out and just went to the trace minerals keto electrolytes, which are just plain unflavored liquid electrolytes off iHerb. And yeah, I didn't do sweeteners for the full 30 days as well. Like, I carried that on, and I still haven't brought them back in, because I just am feeling so good without them. And I think a lot of people don't realize, even if you're using, in my personal opinion, monk fruit and stevia would be the best sweeteners out of all of the sweeteners. There's a long list now of sweeteners, but they can still trigger sweet cravings. Even if you get a clean keto bar with those in them, they can still trigger those cravings, and you have to figure out if you've got the control, or if you're getting really defensive. And I think a lot of people get defensive about, I need this in my coffee, this sweetener, or I need this, and they don't realize they're doing similar things to what they were defending sugar with before keto. And
a lot of alcoholics get very defensive about their scotch. Yeah. If you say, you don't have to put scotch in every cup of coffee, they'll get defensive about that, because they're addicted to that, and they have an addiction. And so, yeah, and rather than them just say, leave me alone, I have an addiction, they get defensive about that. Like, you don't worry about it. Okay, it's my coffee. And people with sweeteners are the same way. I used to be, there was a time when I could not drink coffee unless I had put a copious amount of honey, agave nectar. And then when I found out that those are just pure sugar, and I stopped those, I would use stevia or monk fruit. I did that for a long time. And now I can't drink coffee if it has sweetener in it. I can't taste the coffee. It's just overwhelmingly sweet. I don't like it at all. And people listening to this right now, they're thinking, well, I could never drink coffee without sugar in it. I'm just telling you right now. Yeah, you absolutely can, I promise. And there'll come a day when you won't want any sweetener in your coffee, because you don't need that anymore, because you're no longer addicted to that.
Yeah, I think it's like a fear. They're scared of like letting it go, and literally 3 days of cutting it out, you don't crave it anymore. I personally went dairy free, cutting out cheeses and sour cream and things like that. Not that I think everyone needs to do that, but about a year ago, and I felt so much better. And I think a lot of people could benefit from cutting out like dairy and things like that, because so I see so many people adding to recipes a cup of shredded cheese, sour cream, cream cheese, you know, and then cream as well, like all in one meal. And I feel like there's like the casomorphines in cheese that can still trigger that area of your brain that has cravings. And that's why it's so easy to overeat on cheese and things like that, because it tastes so good.
And even 7 months ago, I would have argued with you right there. But about 7 months ago, me and her handle on Instagram is the Stare Lady. She's lost a ton of weight. She's a great, great girl. I love her to death. But we did a dairy-free challenge month on Instagram together. And I was already a carnivore, and I thought, God, I'm going to give up dairy now too. But I'll tell you guys, at the end of that month, I had lost 6 or 7 more pounds, and that was probably just inflammation and fluid. Yeah. I felt better. And I was like, yeah, okay, got it. I did not know, but cheese is a little bit habit forming, and it's probably the casein in the whey, because even if it's a full fat dairy, the only dairy that really doesn't have casein or whey is butter and ghee. That's really the only two forms of dairy that are almost or completely casein free and whey free. And those proteins, they cause a lot of inflammation in people. And so if you're doing keto or carnivore and you still got inflammation in your stall, I would highly recommend you do a dairy-free month challenge. And you can keep using ghee for sure, and probably butter as well, but just stop all the cheese, all the heavy cream, all the double cream. God, I love that stuff. All the clotted cream, I love that too. But yeah, once I got rid of all that, I lost 7 more pounds and felt better than I felt even on carnivore before that. And so now on my carnivore, every now and then I'll have some cheese or some double cream as a treat, as dessert occasionally. But as far as doing that on a daily basis, like used to, I would cook 2 pounds of ground beef and put a pound of shredded Parmesan cheese in there, right? And that was still, it's delicious, make no mistake, but there's still too much casein and whey, and I still had a lot of inflammation from that.
Yeah, definitely. All the keto recipes I see, there's so many recipes online now, and I just see a lot of them with high amounts of dairy and a lot of almond flour, which people don't realize how much almonds are crushed down to make that almond flour. And then I see so many with like add a cup of stevia or like a whole cup of it, and it just blows my mind. I definitely don't think you need to be adding that much.
And what they're basically mimicking their previous crap diet is what they're doing. They're trying to mimic it with make a lower carbohydrate version of that food. But that's like the alcoholic who tries, we call it here in the States near beer. You guys, Old Duels is a brand name. It's an alcohol-free beer. Tastes just like beer, but it has no alcohol. And so a lot of alcoholics will think, well, I'm just going to drink that. That's never going to work. That's going to call up the monkey. You're going to be back on the bottle within a month. You cannot do that. If you were a carbohydrate addict, you can't be using these keto recipes that have got all the crushed up nuts and all the stevia and all that stuff. That you're just basically mimicking your previous crappy diet. That's all you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. One thing that I did when I first started keto was I was doing, with my mince, I would add cheese, but I'd also add a big dollop of sour cream and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and I would have like a good 2 tablespoons of sour cream on the mince. But I was also doing a lot of spinach, and you see that as quite a healthy food, and I was doing kale chips and things like that. Are you able to speak a little bit about oxalates that are high in almonds and spinach and things like that, and how they can affect the body?
Absolutely. And so I think that spinach and kale are healthier than whole wheat bread and tortilla shells and, Doritos and Cheetos. Yeah, they are less bad, but for many people, and it may not be for everybody, sorry, it may just be for some people, that the oxalates are very inflammatory and they can cause a lot of joint problems, a lot of gut problems, and even in some few people, depression and anxiety and OCD symptoms from spinach and almonds. Yes, yes, I know. And if you're just now coming to keto, you're probably saying, what the hell? I'm going to have to give up everything? It depends. If you're eating keto right now and you're eating lots of spinach and lots of almonds and lots of that stuff, and you feel great, you're losing fat, you're losing inflammation, great. Keep doing what you're doing. But if you stall, if you have inflammation that you just can't get rid of, if you've got fat around the middle of your body that you just can't get rid of, at some point, you need to consider the spinach, the almonds, and all the other things that have the lectins and the phytates and the oxalates. You need to consider all those things. It may be that you're actually a carnivore, and keto was less bad of a diet than you were eating, but it's still not the proper human diet for you. For you personally, it may be that you need to live exclusively on fatty meat, and that could be fatty seafood from the ocean, or that could be fatty red meat from the land. You get to play around with all those different variations until you find the diet where you feel your best and you look your best. Then that is the proper human diet for you. And you've probably talked to people, Zara, who went from the standard American, standard Western diet to keto, and they're like, I feel amazing, right? And you're like, yeah, but people don't realize how good they can feel. They don't. If you would have told them 2 months ago when they were eating the standard Western diet, you could feel 5 times better than you feel now, they would say, no, I feel great. I feel amazing. I don't know what you're talking about. But then when they get to keto, they're like, boom, I feel 10 times better than I felt before. For many people, maybe not all, but maybe all, when you make the move from keto to carnivore, it's that same thing. It's like, yeah, I feel even better. How is that possible? But for many people, it is possible.
Yeah, definitely. The first week of carnivore, I said to my partner, James, my husband, James, I said, the movie Lucy with Scarlett Johansson in it. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but she is, it's kind of like Transcendence, that a movie that are like got really good superpowers kind of thing. And I felt like that. I felt amazing, and it was weird. It was a weird feeling, but it was cool. And I just had those consistent energy levels, and it was like when I first started keto. And that's the thing, I think, a lot of people say, I've suggested things to people. I'm like, maybe try cutting out all of these and the low carb bars that you're eating and the low carb Aldi bread and things like that. And people go, oh, but they get defensive, they're like, oh, but that worked for me. I'm like, yes, it may have worked for you in the beginning of keto because you've come from eating really high carbs and pasta and rice and things like that. But then you need to level up, and you always need to be changing it, and doing like an elimination diet can be a really good way to find out what's causing gut distress. It makes me really sad to see people with autoimmune diseases and PCOS and things like that that are really struggling, but then I see them, constantly eating takeaways and things like that, and just knowing that that's not going to make them feel good if they're really struggling with, certain Crohn's disease and things like that, and they're having all these sugar-free energy drinks and things that are just destroying their gut health. It might seem innocent and it might seem in moderation, but really it's just destroying your gut health and making things harder for you.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just trying something out for 30 days. What if it sounds like one of those ads, what have you got to lose? 30 days, but we're not charging anything. You just literally can try this just by shopping at a butcher. A local butcher, I think, is always a good place.
And I think that's a very important point you just brought up. When Weight Watchers says, hey, try it for 30 days on us, well, guess what they're going to do on day 31? They're going to start charging you, okay? They've spent tens of millions of dollars on an advertising budget. And that's what I want everybody to understand about keto and carnivore. There is no multi-million-dollar corporation behind this. It's just a bunch of people like me and like you and like you and like you who have literally transformed their personal health with this way of eating. And when something transformational like that happens to you, it's human nature to want to share it with the people you care about. And all of a sudden, you're like this keto or carnivore apostle out on the street corner saying, try keto for 30 days. And people they get freaked out by that. They're like, what's wrong with you? Why is keto every other word out of your mouth? And it's because it literally transformed me into the person that I should have been all along. And who doesn't want that kind of success for every person they care about? We want all the people we care about to have that kind of amazing health.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I just kind of kept quiet about it and did my own thing at the start. But when I did kind of start posting about it on my page, I got a lot of confused people because, you know, the whole carbs are essential thing. And there's even like, I follow you on TikTok and love all of your posts and things like that. But I see a lot of dietitians popping up on TikTok posting that keto, they're kind of clickbaiting, I guess, and they're like, keto didn't work out, and saying that carbohydrates are essential, but they're not taking into consideration your body has a process called gluconeogenesis, where if you do need some carbohydrates in your brain, your body will make that from the excess protein. Like the body is a lot smarter than we realize.
Absolutely. It's very ancient and it's very wise. You don't have to feed it carbohydrates. If any cell in your body needs glucose, your liver can make it on a second's notice. It's easy.
Yeah, definitely. The only contrary to that is I struggle with a lot of people sending me they send me what they're eating, their macros and things, and their protein will be like 50 grams for the whole day. And I'm like, that's way too low. And they're like, oh, but I saw, like I love Dr. Burke. I think he has amazing videos, but, they say, I saw Dr. Burke say that gluconeogenesis, if you have too much protein and it will put you out of ketosis. I'm like, no, it's very hard to overeat on protein.
Absolutely.
I definitely think you can overdo fats and things like that. If your goal is to actually lose fat, once you've transitioned and become fat adapted, I think it's good to kind of cut out all of the bulletproof coffees and definitely cut out fat bombs and things. You don't need to hit your fat macros. You need to hit your your protein goal, and then use fat as a lever. If you're not feeling satiated and full, adding a bit more fats, but you don't need to be adding all these fat bombs to make up your macros or calories. You want to be eating to your intuition and when you feel full and listening to your body.
Absolutely. And always remember, whether you're eating low carb, keto, carnivore, Banting, Atkins, it doesn't matter what name you put on it. The whole goal is to keep your carbohydrate intake as low as possible. Now, if somebody's 20 years old and skinny as a rail and metabolically very healthy, they may do great on 100 grams of carbs a day and then eat whatever protein and fat happens to fall in there. But most people do best if they're eating 20 total grams of carbohydrate or less a day. That's when the true superpowers start to kick in, is when you get your total carbohydrate, not net carbs, because that's where all of the keto shakes and bars and cookies and pies and cakes, that's where they're able to make a market. They're like, oh, only one net carb. Yeah, but it's got 49 grams of total carbs. Not okay. That's not okay. And that's for one cookie that's, the size of a quarter. That's not okay. You got to count total carbs and keep your total carbs 20 total grams a day or less. That's the sweet spot for most adults. And whether you wind up eating high protein, moderate fat, or high fat, moderate protein, I really don't care. I want you to do whichever one feels right to you. As you said, which one you intuit. Like, I feel like I feel better when I eat high protein or when I eat higher fat. But definitely you don't want to undereat protein, because your body's made of protein. You have to eat enough protein. Human beings are meat eaters. I'm sorry for all the young people out there who watch the Game Changers and you think that we can just live on plants. It's not true. All of the paleoanthropological evidence shows that human beings for at least the last 250,000 years have eaten as much fatty meat as they could get their hands on. If they were starving and couldn't get any meat, they would eat veg. Yes, no doubt. But if they could get meat, that was the first thing that went into their mouth. And we can tell this from the carbon and nitrogen and strontium stable isotope analysis of bones, whether the bones are 10 years old or whether they're 100,000 years old. We can tell what kind of diet those people ate by the carbon, nitrogen, and strontium in their bones. So that's not up for debate. We are not plant eaters. We are meat eaters. Now, if you want to add some plants to your meat, that's probably okay for most people. Some people, especially if they come from very northern latitudes, or if they have a very high percentage of Neanderthal DNA, you probably need to be just a beef, butter, bacon, and eggs carnivore. And that's what you should live on. Yeah,
definitely. I feel like, veganism's been a thing for a long time, but the last few years it's really, spiked up, and people, the plant-based meat patties. I was at the supermarket a few months ago and I was picked some up to have a read of the ingredients. And it kind of annoys me how they say, like, it's got a picture of a chicken and it says chicken-less nuggets or beef-less burger. Like, why does it even have to have a picture of a cow or a chicken on it? It can just be a veggie patty or a veggie nugget. But the ingredients, I literally had my mouth open and I filmed it and I was just like, I had my mouth open and people were looking at me funny. I was like, you could not pay me to eat this.
It is the ultimate processed junk food in the world. I would opine that the plant-based pseudo meats are probably less healthy for you than eating Cheetos and Doritos.
Yeah.
They're equally as bad. They're very, very unhealthy. They're full of all kinds of unhealthy industrial vegetable oils, all kinds of pea protein, which is dangerous for dogs and dangerous for humans. It's not a safe food to eat. It's not a proper human food.
Yeah, definitely. And then all of the fast food chains obviously see money and they're jumping on it with all their, what is it called? Unbelievable burger?
What is it? The Impossible Burger. And yeah, it's just crazy. It's craziness. And it's a fad. That's a fad diet. That's going to come and that's going to go. People are going to lose millions of dollars who invested in the stock in Impossible meats because there's no way that's sustainable. That's a highly processed food. It literally relies on monocropping hundreds of thousands of acres with just one crop, peas. That's it. And hundreds of thousands, if not millions of animals lose their lives as the combines roll through these 1,000-acre fields, chewing up all the tiny animals and insects, and they're losing their life due to the vegans trying to save animals' lives. It just literally makes no sense at all.
Definitely. And I know that people like Hungry Jacks and things like that, Burger King, things like that, have reached out to female influencers and things like that to come and offered to pay them $10,000 to post eating the Impossible Burger as like a collaboration. And then obviously if those people have 1 million followers and a lot of younger followers, they're all going to go, oh, well, because this person that I love eats this burger, I'm going to go eat it too. And they could offer me $1 million and I would never post or eat or touch something like that.
Exactly. That you couldn't pay me enough to eat it myself. And you definitely, there's not enough zeros that you could put on the check that would make me try to recommend that to other people, because I'm a doctor. I took an oath and I'm definitely never going to recommend anything to anybody that I think would harm them. And I think if you're eating an Impossible Burger, you are harming your metabolism.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's really hard because obviously everyone means well. And there was a point when I thought that I wanted to be vegan after watching things like What the Health years ago. They're very shocking, but they're very biased, and they only get people on the show to interview that are vegan propagandas. So it's very biased. And I just think it's like there's all these myths about red meat causes cancer, but you need fiber. And the great fiber myth is a interesting one, because I often say to people, well, have you had a baby? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, does your baby have fiber? And they're like, no. I'm like, does it poop? And they're like, yeah. And then they kind of sit there like, oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. I love that. I'm going to steal that from you.
Yeah, definitely. Like, there's just so many myths and things that are carried on, and a lot of studies that are pulled in conjunction with high carb, and people that were also eating rice and pasta and potatoes and things like that. So a lot of the studies that are done on red meat aren't, because they can't do a controlled study where they just have someone eat meat, because not many people think that that's normal. So yeah, it's a tricky one going off the official studies and what they claim in a lot of those documentaries like Game Changers and things like that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think people are going to quickly see through that. A lot of people might try the vegan diet for a while because of the Game Changers and because of what the health. But I predict, and I'm actually glad of that. I'm actually happy. I want a bunch of young people to try to do the vegan diet, because what they're going to find is it's super restrictive. They feel like crap. They're constantly hungry. Their skin conditions are going to get worse. Their gut conditions are going to get worse. Their teeth, if they stay on it long enough, they'll start to get cavities and their teeth will start to get loose. It's very, very unhealthy diet. So I'd much prefer people try that in their teens and 20s while they're still young and resilient enough to bounce back from that.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
so I love it that all the young people are trying veganism, because by the time they're in their 30s, they're going to say, hey, I done been there and done that. That sucks. I felt like crap. I'm never doing that again. And so I really think it's very short-sighted for the vegan hierarchy to be really all guns in with what the health and the Game Changers, because all these young people, they're not stupid. They're going to try this and go, God, my eczema is worse than it's ever been. My psoriasis is worse than it's ever been. My irritable bowel is constantly flared up eating this diet. Plus, I'm hungry constantly. I have to eat every 2 hours. I have to graze like a cow in order to not feel like I'm starving to death. Young people are smarter than that. They're going to quickly go, I don't think this is right. I'm going to look into this. And so I love it that the Game Changers came out so that all the young people can get that foolishness out of their system and then come and eat the proper human diet.
Yeah, definitely. It's all about experimenting and seeing what works best, but also like listening to your body and being aware of conditions and things like that. It's easy to mask something with some medication, but fixing the root cause is always the most
100%.
important thing.
Fix the root cause and everything else will sort itself out.
Definitely. Awesome. Well, it's been amazing talking to you, and I definitely would like to do another talk with you in a few months' time, an updated talk, I'm sure, when I post this video, and I will get a lot of questions and things like that with the regards to me having 0 carbs and 0 fiber and actually getting a better digestive system. Yep. That people would think my digestive system would get worse, but obviously there's less waste when you're not having all of the fiber and things like that. So yeah, I'm sure I'll get a lot of questions, but do you want to tell people where they can find you? Because you have amazing content on multiple platforms. So I'll let you.
Sure. So I have this book called Why As My Doctor Told Me that's available all around the world in bookstores as a paperback and a Kindle and an Audible version. So if you're spoiled like me and you just listen to books now, it's on Audible as well. I have a YouTube channel. I have over 270 videos you can watch for free. Just go to YouTube and search for Dr. Ken Berry. That ought to find me. And then I have a Facebook page where I do a lot of work. If you just go to Facebook and search for Dr. Ken Berry, that should find me too. And most importantly, I have a TikTok, and I need all of you guys to go and follow me on TikTok, and let's take over TikTok with Keto and Carnivore and teach these youngins on TikTok the proper human diet.
Yeah, definitely. And I will link everything below as well so people can find you. I feel like a lot of people that follow me on my page do follow you, but there's still always going to be people that haven't found you yet and can get really good information from all your videos, and you have a lot of short videos that it just explain things straight to the point, which is really important. You know, not everyone has a full hour to watch seminars and things like that. So having breakdowns of certain topics and things, I've often searched just Dr. Ken Berry electrolytes, and you know, you've got a video on each thing, which is really good. And you know, I definitely, myself, and I'm guessing thousands of other people, appreciate all the content you put out and all the energy you put in, because it would be very hard in your line of your profession and things like that, speaking out about things that aren't. And same as Dr. Paul Saladino, you know, he also was trained in the same kind of area and then had to kind of go against what you're initially taught. So yeah, it's a tricky one, but a lot of respect to you for doing that.
Thank you so much. And it was a pleasure to chat with you, and we can definitely do this again in the near future.